Thanks for tuning in to Written on the Edge, Season 7, Episode 34. I'm Vance Bastian here with my co-host, S.A. Baz Collins.
Howdy.
I don't know where that came from.
Chanting my mini pearl.
All right. Well, we're really glad you're here with us. On today's show, Lee Pulaski joins us to discuss his latest novels and a couple other writing things, followed by our review of Uncoupled, and then Baz and I will share what's held our attention this week. So if you like what you're hearing from us and you want queer content updates, like, subscribe, do all the fun stuff, go to YouTube, support our YouTube channel, help us grow that a little bit. But now, on to our guest. Living in the real world has never been a long-term plan for Lee Pulaski. He spent many a day imagining bold adventures and playing them out in the quiet countryside of the Chino Valley, Arizona. Lee was first published in high school for writing about the news and telling compelling feature stories about people. And while he's still a working journalist today, his excitement for writing mystery, romance, and fantasy inspired him to write his first novel in 2006, after a particularly breathtaking autumn. Lee, welcome back to the show.
Hey, I'm glad to be back. Second time.
Right?
A returning champion.
Yeah.
So
I didn't scare everybody off the first time. Good.
You did not. But for folks who didn't hear that interview, let's give a quick how you became a writer. I mean, The Beautiful Fall Day is a great story, and I think we should share it again.
Well, okay, yes. Back in 2006, I was still living in Arizona, and my writing juices just were kind of fizzling out, and realized I needed to do something about it. So I let my sister and my brother-in-law convince me to take a camping trip with them into the Wisconsin Northwoods, and it was right around the time of fall. And as you know, in Arizona, it's mostly a desert. So I mean, you only have minor examples of the leaves changing colors, but going into Wisconsin, it's like bam, red, orange, yellow.
Yep.
You got everything. And so once I saw the leaves and stuff, I'm like, there's a story in this. There's a story in this. Picked up a notebook, started writing down some ideas, and bam, first novel was born a couple of years later.
There you go.
Very nice.
I was going to say, though, when you saw a leaf going by, I was going to say, in Arizona? My first question would be, we have trees?
There are parts of Arizona.
No.
There are
I'm just
trees.
a commentary on the desert chaparral country, okay?
Yeah. there are trees, but some of them are dead.
Yeah, right.
And some of them are currently burning.
The memory of
Yes.
trees. Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
So we are here today to discuss strange and fascinating creatures, and it sounds like you've dipped into a Wisconsin legend.
Yes, I have. I went from writing a charming tale of Christmas in the desert into Where's the Hodag?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, in Night of the Hodag I originally started writing it before White Christmas in the Desert.
Okay.
But then White Christmas came knocking and said, write me first. So once that was done, I went back to Night of the Hodag, and things took off from there. I wanted to try something different with Night of the Hodag. Up until a couple years ago, I'd been writing a lot of the mystery series and stuff, and I wanted to kind of dive back into some fantasy a little bit, because you can get away with a lot more with fantasy than you can with mysteries and modern stuff, and just trying to. You can make stuff up.
Well, right.
Yeah,
As long as you're internally consistent, people will go with you. Yes.
Yes. So I live about 2 hours south of Rhinelander, Wisconsin, and that's where they're really Hodag crazy. They've got this big fiberglass statue of one outside the Chamber of Commerce.
Uh-huh.
And they've got some smaller ones all around town that tourists get to look for. I did that once. That was kind of fun. Nice.
You took the Hodag tour?
Vance had to actually introduce me to this legend, and for people who are on our YouTube channel, and if you're not, why aren't you? I'm going to fly what a Hodag is up here, because Vance had to bring me into the realm of what it is.
Well, I was about to ask Lee, perhaps we should explain it for people who don't live in this area.
Oh, yes. The Hodag legend goes back to about 1893. And basically, this guy named Eugene Shepard, he was known as a land surveyor, a timber cruiser, and as it turns out, a prankster. He rounded up a group of people saying that he captured this animal called a hodag, which is supposed to have the head of a frog, the grinning face of a giant elephant, and thick, short legs that are set off by huge claws. But he has the back of a dinosaur with a long tail with spears at the end. And try to imagine that for a moment.
Somebody was on something.
I mean, the jackalope has nothing on the Hodag.
Right.
This was back before hallucinogenics were really trendy.
So,
but anyway, for those that are seeing my video and stuff, here's kind of what the Hodag looks like.
There you go.
On the cover of the book here. So, yeah, that was the picture I took out in front of the Chamber of Commerce and did all kinds of Photoshop craziness to it and turned it into that. So,
there you go.
So, what's your novel about?
Well, my novel starts out. There are these three guys, all in a relationship, and they're bounty hunters, but they don't like go after criminals and take them back to jail or anything like that. They seek out supernatural creatures, unusual things, and mainly vampires and werewolves and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But they find out about the Hodag after one of them learns that his grandmother has passed away up in Three Lakes, Wisconsin, and left everything to him. So they go up there, and while the one guy is trying to sort through his grandmother's stuff and figure out, okay, what am I going to do with all of this, considering I'm mobile and on the go, the other two guys learn about the Hodag, and there's a rumor supposedly that the Hodag is going around killing people, which is kind of off kilter for what the Hodag is known for.
Right.
I mean, the Hodag's really a gentle creature and stuff, but you know how people are when they don't understand something. Their imagination runs wild, and they think that these things are capable from everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, meanwhile, the one whose grandmother passed away, his name's Trent. He's going through stuff, and he discovers that his grandmother practiced witchcraft, and he learns that he actually inherits the powers as well.
Ooh.
So he's suddenly able to do all these weird and crazy things. And if that's not scary enough, one night he's driving home and someone steps into the road in front of him. He barely avoids a crash. Turns out to be his dead grandmother, who's
there you
in
go.
ghostly form. And yeah, so
There's a lot to unpack there.
Oh yes. This sucker wound up being over 300 pages. So this is going to be a juicy story for everyone to take a weekend and relax.
Right, it'll be perfect for the autumn season that's coming up. You read it as you get towards Halloween.
Yep.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you keep the lights on at night.
Right.
You realize. Oh.
So completely unrelated, but because it's hilarious, my grandmother's sister had a favorite restaurant in Three Lakes. So the whole grandmother in Three Lakes, Wisconsin thing is hilarious to me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was apparently like her favorite place to get spaghetti.
Oh, okay.
I remember being dragged once when I was like 7, and I didn't understand why this was such a big deal, but okay. On to the novel though. So you said there are 3 men in a relationship. Are they officially a throuple?
Yepper. Two of them are married legally and stuff, and the third one's just along for the ride because, of course, you can't have 3 people in a marriage by law.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Yet.
Yeah.
Unless you're Mormon.
Well,
and that opens up a whole nother can of worms.
It does, but there's precedent, is all I'm saying.
Well, true.
My apologies to the Mormons out there.
But that's very cool. And it sounds like as bounty hunters, they're fairly tough. Did you follow like the supernatural show kind of style with their bounty hunting?
Kind of a little bit. Actually, I've got one guy. He's fully human. You'll find out that the other two are different things entirely. I mean, obviously, I mentioned the one with the witchcraft,
Sure.
but I've got Luke, who's fully human. He's a black guy. His parents were killed by a supernatural creature, so that's why he goes out and hunts things. But his first partner, Adam, is a Native American. I made him Navajo,
Nice.
and as the book progresses, we find out that he's actually a skinwalker. And so, yeah. So we're not just dealing with Hodags here. We're dealing with a variety of other supernatural creatures.
Yeah.
And he, Adam has kept his skinwalker heritage. I mean, he's tried to keep it down and kept it secret from his partners. And in this book, it slowly starts to come out again as he's feeling particular emotions about this thing. Anger and frustration seems to drive it out a lot more than anything. But I have in one chapter where he wakes up, he's in the woods all alone, completely naked after he got into an argument, and realized, oh no, I'm turning into the skinwalker again.
Gotcha.
But
and then the third one's name, the one who's the witchcraft.
yeah, Trent. He's actually not as much a hunter. He's the one that like make sure the guns are loaded, make sure the technology's working, that sort of thing. He doesn't always go out on
logistics.
The hunt and stuff. Yes. He's basically the Abby Shuto of the bunch.
There you go.
Nice.
And then turns out to actually have magical powers. It's like, oh, okay, now I can kill shit on my own.
So I just have to ask: you sound like you're having fun with these guys. Is there a future book in their series?
Possibly. I haven't been able to form something completely in my head, but I definitely want to bring them back at least one more time.
Nice.
But with this book, it seems like I poured a lot of energy into it. So I mean, in order to make something that is a decent sequel, I'm going to need to think long and hard. Okay, what can I do to top this? Because which is, I mean, is a thing with all books in general, but
right.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want folks to know about it? Anything I didn't ask?
Oh gosh, let me think. Oh gosh, not anything I can think of at the moment, but I'll probably blurt something out later and take you all by surprise.
An hour after we record this app, you'll go, "Oh, I should have said that."
So it it blends urban fantasy and horror. It sounds like
a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I've done some fantasy and stuff, but I mean, it hasn't always crept over into horror. But
yeah, it sounds like it's kind of like the show Supernatural. It toes those same lines.
Right.
Where you have the supernatural element, but it's got a little bit of humor. It's got so it sounds like it's got a full rounding of it. So to me, that's what I'm getting, like a supernatural vibe to it with a gay angle.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's also got some naked butts too. So
well, there you go. 'Cause you gotta give the people what they want.
Well, you can't have horror without people having sex first, then being the ones that are picked
right.
off.
It's the affirmation of life.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, but also there's sex after the battle is won, which is the affirmation of life.
Oh yes.
All right. So one of the topics you'd asked us to add was sharing your writing with groups. I'm assuming you shared this book with your writing group as you were writing it.
Oh yes. I'm a member of a group here called the Chino Area Writers, and in fact, we just got done having a meeting a couple days ago. And one of the nice things about this is I was able to share this with the group and being able to have them ask questions and stuff. I mean, a lot of them have heard of the Hodag and stuff, but
Sure.
there were certain factoids that they hadn't heard of, and they were like, "Does the Hodag really take fish off of people's fishing lines and steal them and stuff?" And it's like, well, that's the legend.
Yep, for it is partially aquatic.
Yes.
So, did they force you to think through things a little deeper? I mean,
yeah, I'm wondering if through your writing group, when you get that kind of feedback, was it like a mental note to you? Oh, okay, I got to flesh that out a little bit more, or I got to explain that piece because it's not quite as clear as I thought it was originally. I mean, did it help you flesh out a bit more what you were doing?
Yes, a little bit. And one of the things that it helped work out, I mean, the notion of three people in a relationship is kind of foreign to a lot of people. And
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of these folks are heterosexual. A lot of these people are old, not realizing that, oh, yes, oh, yes, you can not only have sex as recreation, you can invite more than two players. And being able
They're
to
looking at their controller going, how do you add players? Sorry, I had to do
but
that for Vance.
yeah,
He's a gamer.
but it's yeah, but it's kind of nice to be able to explain things that that people don't realize, and be able to explain that yes, people do this, and being able to have examples of that,
Mhm.
and
Well,
just basically opening people's minds.
well, and I also imagine having others in the group who aren't experienced with this sort of thing, having them help you craft your way of explaining it so that the general public can
It
get it.
becomes accessible. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
because I mean, these days there's a lot of fiction out there where you have two guys or two women falling in love with each other, but usually a lot of times when you have three people in a relationship, a lot of time you have male, male, female, because you want to incorporate bisexual people as well. But
Mm-hmm.
in this one, I wanted to be able to depict a gay relationship, three people. I mean, something that I hadn't written about before, and
Mm-hmm.
being able to into incorporate it into this fantasy world, and
Yeah.
and
Did you find
ironically making it more legitimate in this fantasy world than it would be in your typical romance.
right? Did you find that writing the relationship actually came pretty easy?
No, actually, I had to and I had to work at it a little bit,
Huh.
because I mean, and obviously just having my one partner, I wanted to and I wanted to make sure that I wrote it so that it wasn't like some 80
Exclusionary.
exclusionary thing. I wanted
Right.
to be able to make it legitimate, make people realize this is real, this is acceptable to many people, and that
Hmm.
this is natural
Hmm.
in their case. So,
All right.
Absolutely.
Anything else about your writing group that you want to plug?
oh, let's see. Well, there's always room for more people at the table. So, but yeah, we meet once a month at the library, usually on the third Thursday, and we try to bring in as many people as we can. We also try to encourage the next generation to write. We have this
Hmm.
children's writing contest, which is a lot of fun.
Oh, cool.
Excellent.
It's nice to see some of the things that they come up with. I mean, some of their stories can be even more imaginative than anything that I come up with. I
Right.
look at some of
Right.
them and it's
Uh-huh.
like, where did that come from?
Yeah. They don't know where the line in the sand is, so they just blow right over it, you know.
No. Yeah.
In a recent conversation I had with someone who wants to be an author and just hasn't gotten there yet, I would also like to point out that if you join a writing group, it can help you get over your fear of putting your baby works out into the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Absolutely.
the expectation is that you're sharing it every week or every other week or however often you meet.
hmm Yeah, it's good that you bring that up, because there was a 3 month period where I had to miss meetings and stuff because work kind of in the way. You know, the whole thing that pays for the roof over my head and everything.
Right.
So I missed the meetings, and I also discovered that kind of my writing uh, didn't proceed very far, because
Hmm.
I didn't have the feedback from people saying, "Oh, this is good, you should continue it," or "Oh God, this sucks, go with something else."
Have you ever gotten that second one? Oh God, it
Not
sucks.
and not with the works completely, but ironically, one time when I did read something out of White Christmas in the Desert about this elderly couple bickering at each other and stuff,
Mhm.
this one lady didn't like it at all. She said that, and she said that it seemed awful and mean spirited and everything. And it's like, well, no, this was just meant to be funny.
Hmm. All right. anything else you want to share either about the novel or the writing group?
Oh gosh. Well, let's see. I think with this novel, I it took it took a little longer than expected because it was such a big story. I don't think I realized that. I mean, with most of my stories, it takes me like around 9 months to a year. This
Mm,
one took me a couple years to get fully together and organized and everything. And I think it came from not only new experiences, but also being able to and take such a large, well-rounded story and turn it into something cohesive. So,
Right,
right.
right.
Very nice. And it's selling everywhere people buy their books.
oh yeah, it's on Amazon, and also speaking of books, I'm actually selling books in a bookstore over in Sturgeon Bay.
Nice.
Other Worlds Books and More bought several of my books, and they're selling them now. And
Excellent.
That's
so,
Bravo.
awesome.
yeah, it's the first time a bookstore actually asked me, "Hey, can we buy some of your books and to sell to the people?" I mean, but most of the hustle has had to be by me, and
Right,
be like,
right.
"Here's Night of the Hodag, please buy it."
Right,
That's
right.
awesome. Congratulations. That's a huge step.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So who knows? Maybe more will be interested. You never know. So.
Hmm. Well, just because you picked a Wisconsin legend, I would imagine that's actually a really easy in for you to get into bookstores.
Oh yes, definitely. I mean, it probably would have been a little tougher if I'd still been living in Arizona and wrote about this, but
True.
now that be like Hodag, Hodag, really? That
A
just
what?
sounds lame. Why can't you write something about chupacabras or something?
Nice. So, what's up next for you? What are you working on?
Well, I'm actually diving back into the mysteries after a couple of years. I'm writing a novel called "The Tragic Tale of Tabby and Henny."
Ooh.
And I mean, of course, when you think tabby, you think cat. So you think that this
Right,
person
right.
deals with cats. And when you think of Henny, you think of someone that deals with chickens and stuff. Well, it turns out Henny's the one that deals with the cats, and Tabby's the one that deals with the chickens. And as the title suggests, things don't end well. So my main character, a bookstore owner called Zachary Gagewood, has to figure out who's killed them. And in fact, I've just finished the scene where they actually die, and they die horribly. Just FYI. So
Oh,
and so,
flip, flip, flip.
yeah.
Wow. Do you have an expected finish date? I mean, we're not going to hold you to it.
Well, I'm thinking hopefully by sometime early next year I'll have it done. So
Nice. Very nice.
yeah.
Excellent.
Where is the best place online for people to catch up with you and connect with you?
Okay, well, we've got my main website, which is leepulaski.com. Of course, if you search for me under Amazon, and you can find all my books and everything.
Right.
I also have a blog site that I don't always pay attention to. Sometimes I take a month or two off and then come back with three or four. It's kind of weird that way. But anyway, the blog site is called Lee Pulaski at .wordpress.com.
Hmm. All right. Any final words of wisdom?
Oh, let's see. Don't let the man get you down unless that's what you want.
There's a
Very,
tagline for your next book.
very wise. Or your next T-shirt.
Right. Well, there you go.
Maybe the title for the show.
Speaking of which, I'm wearing a shirt that we have up on our
Oh yeah.
Redbubble, and there's a revamp of it on baseball shirts, 3/4 sleeve baseball shirts. So it's
Mhm.
my Regency Shade series, and then I just ordered up our new Rope
Hmm.
Podcast shirts, which on the back
Ooh.
it says sidebar, which if you know, you know.
Right.
This is the actually the cheap version, and it is so soft and so comfortable. It is 100% cotton, but the weave is it feels like microfiber. That's how
Wow.
soft it really is. It's absolutely amazing. And then
Oh,
I also
nice.
have I'm going to be buying like something from our catalog once every month or so, so I'll be able to demonstrate to people what it looks like. I also got a hoodie, our Pride hoodie.
Hmm.
It's got cheering a bunch of people with our distribution points, and then the Rote logo, and it says Pride in the corner. And this one's a maroon hoodie, And on the back, it also says sidebar, because when you know, you know. So, and it's wonderful. It's great stitching, very soft, very plush. Goes up to double X or triple. I think it might be triple. So there's some new merch up there for people to go check out. Definitely make sure you do. And if you're only listening to this on the audio, go check out our YouTube channel and subscribe while you're there so that we can up our numbers. We're trying to get this baby to fly over on YouTube and be able to see stuff like that when I show it. So there you go. Win-win.
Excellent.
All right, we'd like to extend a huge thank you to Lee Pulaski for being with us. Lee, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you both for having me back again. I mean, I thought I misbehaved the first time, but I guess I wasn't bad enough to.
You know, we kind of like our bad boys, so you're fine.
Yeah, right.
Oh, okay.
All right, we at Written on the Edge are proud to introduce you to new media by queer content creators. If you like hearing about our artists, please like and subscribe so you get the alerts for new episodes. Now, on to the review. Or let's let Baz get through that first.
I was trying to be cute and I ended up breathing in the drink. Oh, God. Moving on.
And
yeah.
on to the review.
Welcome back, Gals, Gays, and Days. Today we are reviewing a show that has just recently been released. It already has 10,000 votes on IMDb. It is already making the rounds amongst all the critics and stuff. It has the indomitable Neil Patrick Harris, who I tried to name David Patrick Harris when I was talking to Vance in the pre-show, but you know, I'm putting the couple together. That's my mashup. Anyways. We are doing the show Uncoupled, which is on Amazon Prime. No, Netflix. Sorry.
Netflix.
Sorry, Amazon. Sorry, Netflix. It's on Netflix. And it is Michael's life seemed to be perfect until his longtime partner blindsides him after 17 years of being in a long-time relationship. He has to confront the nightmares of losing his soulmate and suddenly finding himself as a single gay man in his mid-40s. So that's the run-up. The cast is brilliant. I have to say right from the get-go, they're going to get a 5 from me because everybody played it beautifully, down to the stereotypes that many gay people have of people in their life and how they are within the queer community, especially in a high metropolitan city kind of thing. I don't know that Main Street, USA would be so much like this, but you know, as far as a big metro city, I think it's very exemplary of what the types of people that would be within your queer sphere. I like that, queer sphere. Okay. Anyways, so what did you think?
Yay, we finally got a Darren Star take on the crazy, kooky, painful dating life of New York's privileged gays.
Oh, there was people of color in this, so it wasn't just
people
white
of color,
privilege.
yes, but they were all privileged in terms of
elites.
wealth.
Yeah.
They all owned their own apartments. They all got to Uber everywhere they went. Nobody had to get on the subway, though she talked about it. She never actually got on it. Suzanne, I should say.
Yeah.
She had a subway joke, but she never actually got on the subway.
Well, you know, I think here's the thing with this. I think what they're trying to show that even if you're successful and you've got all this stuff going on in your life, things can still fuck up. And
it's just like Sex in the City. They were also wealthy, privileged, and they also had lives that completely messed them up.
Right.
Just we finally got the gay side of it.
Right. And I love that Tisha Campbell's in it. I just adore her. I've loved her since Little Shop of Horrors way back in the day. She's just, I've always gravitated to things that she's been in. It was wonderful to see her again, and it was wonderful she got to be her sassy ass self. She was pretty much behaving in a lot of respects, but I was there for it. I just love her. She can just stand in a corner, and my eyes will be glued that direction because I know she's going to do something interesting. But yeah, so it does take place. Tuck Watson plays the longtime husband. He is actually in a relationship in real life with Andrew Rannells. So, you know, it's interesting because the way that this plays up, it's kind of like it's a topic of conversation within the queer world as far as what happens if your partner suddenly leaves you and everything you've built your life on is crumbled, and now you're thrust into the dating world of this era. Vastly different from what we did back in the day, which I think is a really relevant topic of conversation, because there are some gays who, and people just in general, who run into this problem. I mean, Marcia Gay Harden, who's a straight woman, she has the exact same problem, and her association with Neil Patrick's character, Michael, that kind of scenario kind of shows the commonality in the storylines, in that they both were jilted long-term partners.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a great venue for showing the humanity of it all, and that whether you're queer or not, it doesn't make a difference. It happens. And when shit happens, you got to deal with it.
I think it's also a bright spark of hope for the young gays, because this shows them that we don't die at 30.
Right. Although there are cautionary tales there within concerning Billy, one of his besties.
Yes, but
and I thought it was kind of interesting, just for a moment, on Emerson Brooks, who plays Billy. Mm-hmm. Billy is the aging gay who refused to give up the club circuit. He still has his shit together. It's not like he's, some wallowing wallflower who just tries to hold on. I mean, he tries to hold his own amongst all the young gays, and he attracts a lot of younger men boyfriends. But I thought it was rather interesting that the one that really kind of was promising was actually far more smarter and more mature.
Far more smarter?
Yeah, smarter. Far more smarter and mature than Billy was.
Oh, absolutely.
And I loved that little twist, because, you could have played him just as vapid, but he wasn't. And that was kind of like and I loved Suzanne's reaction to it. It was like, oh, okay, good for you, So I kind of love the way that these characters played out, in that you could literally just mix them up, whether they were queer or straight, and you would still get the same sort of story, because it's our generation and the one right after mine, Gen X to the next generation, which was what, Y, Z? I don't remember what they are.
Yeah.
Millennial, whatever. Anyways.
XY Millennial Z, I think I could be way wrong.
All right. But it's that whole idea that when we dated in our youth, none of this was around.
Right.
Just the fact that, Michael has to learn how to take a butt pic and a dick pic. I mean, it's just, and the scenario of how it happens and how it unfolds and the awkwardness and it's just, it points out on so many levels of how unprepared queer people are, and yet, we tend not to be judgmental of one another and what we do in our lives, because we've had to write our own rules. Mm-hmm. And yet, in these scenarios, it's cringy, because we just go, oh, I never want to experience that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cautionary in that respect, too. But anyways, finish what you were saying about it.
Well, that's it. I would like...
Any standouts in the cast that you liked?
Well, I've always liked Tuck, because I remember him from the very first Mummy, where he was one of the three adventurers. Mm-hmm. And so I've sort of always enjoyed, every time I see him pop up in something, I'm like, yes, it's Tuck. I don't know why I have that reaction, but I do.
He did another queer movie we should review, too.
Yes, he
called
did.
Retake. Yeah.
Yep. And then near the end, when Tisha Campbell's character, Suzanne, goes out to the bar with her best friend and Claire, the best friend, Lainey, played one of my favorite medical examiners named Lainey. And so when she popped up, I was like, yes, she needs to be in this more too, please.
Well, I mean, she is a friend of Suzanne, so if this goes to season 2, which they definitely left it in the cards that's a setup, because there's a final twist at the very end that sort of ends on a sort of cliffhanger, not really a cliffhanger, But as I explained to Vance and our previous guests after the show, I said, with what his ex-partner tells him at the very end, I'll be all, girl, you starting over. And that's all I'll say. Watch the show, and when you get to the end, you'll understand why I said that.
Yeah.
Marcia Gay Harden is brilliant as Claire, the bitter, jilted wife for the younger model, and the way she resolves it to slap her husband in the face is just as funny, and Tisha Campbell plays it well. It's just the whole thing is just such a mess across the board, across all characters. And it's kind of in the same vein. It's kind of the gay vibe of Grace and Frankie in that they're trying to make their way as sexual beings and relationship beings, but in a world that is they are not prepared for, and they're finding themselves having to swim with much younger sharks. You know?
That's true.
So, what are your ratings?
Let's see. Production quality 5. It was obvious some money was spent just to make this happen. I mean, even locations in New York are not cheap. So
Right.
And they rented the boathouse for the wedding. That's like a $6 million venue. All right. Script screenplay 4.5. There were a couple slow moments where my attention wandered. Otherwise, it was bright and snappy and certainly good. Sound lighting score 4. It didn't detract, but it, again, didn't knock my socks off. It was great for what it was. Art direction costuming also 4. I believed everything everybody wore. I believed the sets for the most part. I mean, I still had a problem with everybody being wealthy, but that's just my own thing. Casting 5. Everybody nailed it. Directing 5. The director, is this plural? I think there were a couple. Knew how to work with this cast and the script and tell the story. Queer themes presented 5. It covered the gamut. Everything from marriage to breakup to children, and this is all within queer families, to dating to weird dating apps. It was all there. So personal overall 4.75.
There you go. Mine are fairly close to yours. My overall production rating was a 4. The script screenplay was a 5. Our sound lighting score was a 4. Art direction's a 4, pretty much for the same reasons you explained as well. The cast was a 5, definite 5. The direction, I gave it a 4, only because it was, I don't want to say it was perfunctory, but it was just what it needed to be. There was nothing, and as you say, there were a couple points where you're like, let's go. Nothing major, but it was, it could use a little tightening. Then the queer themes, I gave it a 4. While it's only gay and lesbian, that is really the predominant thrust of it, with the straight kind of. But reason why I'm giving it more than a 3 is because it's dealing with an older generation, which is something we don't see nearly as much. And that, I think, is worthy of the extra point. So that's why I gave it a 4. So my overall is a 4.5.
Nice.
So definite watch. Put it on your list. And it is a perfect setup for a season 2. And I hope to God they get it, because it's Netflix and you never know with them. Right. So, I mean, I don't know if that rental of the bridal thing busted the budget, but they got a number of named people in this cast, so they couldn't have come cheap either. So
that is true.
It's even though it's not wild with the special effects and all that kind of stuff that tends to cost a lot, we still have the issue of salaries and location shots in a state that is not very forgiving with tax incentives. So there's that. All right, so that is our review of the Uncoupled. Definitely check it out, and come back next week for our next review. Moving on to What Are We On About? All right, so what are you on about this week?
Let's see. She-Hulk started. And while I loved her...
That was the one that you had mentioned a couple of weeks ago, saying a certain green person who talks to the camera.
And she does. Although when she does it in the series, she kind of questions why she's doing it, which is interesting. In the comic books, though, she was journaling, so it was kind of hard to make that work with a camera.
Gotcha.
We probably won't review it. I did not see any queer element at all worth talking about in the series. But if you want just a fun superhero series where women get to put men in their place a little bit, go watch it. It's fun for that.
And I would watch it anyways because it has Tatiana Maslany, who I
Yes.
just adore.
Yes,
If people don't know who she is, should definitely check out one of her previous projects, Orphan Black, where she plays multiple roles of the same woman as far as the way she looks, and she plays a ton of different characters in that one, and she is one gifted actress. She really knows how to bring her A game. So that's where she's from. If people don't remember, but they did watch Orphan Black, that's who is playing the role now. So it can only be good, in my opinion.
Right. The other thing we watched was House of the Dragon. Which was from when we're filming this, just aired last night. Again, episode 1 didn't have any queer aspect worth reviewing, so I don't think we're going to cover it in this show unless something major happens down the road.
Well, they did have it in the original Game of Thrones.
They did, but and I'm not saying it's not coming, but it wasn't in episode 1. But if you enjoyed Game of Thrones, this is a 172 years before prequel that explains Daenerys' house and why they were who they were at the start of Game of Thrones. I cannot knock the production quality and the money that was put behind this, and they got the dragon CGI better because they've had time to work on it. So we enjoyed it very much. It's a popcorn night.
Yeah, I gave up on the whole thing in the 4th season after Peter Pascal's character was popped like a pimple. I'm like, okay, it's death porn. I'm out. So, great for people who love it, but I just can't invest in characters that I know probably aren't going to make it to the very end. So that's my take on it. So is that everything that you're on about this week?
Other than taking my parents to IKEA as the belated present for their 50th anniversary, sure.
Okay, it sounds like there's a story in there.
I mean, we couldn't
at least a sitcom.
We couldn't go as planned because they had COVID, but they tested negative the night before. So we went to IKEA, and all the mask signs were still up, but nobody was wearing them except my little family. And we were mask shamed. So there's that. We actually had one woman turn to us and say, "Don't you know you don't have to wear those anymore? Like, you're the reason I'm wearing it. Go away."
Right.
That's what I'm on about.
Yeah. Okay. No, fair enough. I want to bring up 2 things for what am I on about this week. I've been listening to a lot of Olivia Newton-John because unfortunately we lost her at the beginning of last week. And it was quite a shock when it happened because I didn't realize, I knew that the cancer had returned, but I didn't realize it had progressed as much as it had. And the fact that she was much older was also another contributing factor. So I was really sad to see that. And it was nice to see on YouTube a lot of the people who react to music videos and stuff. They all kind of did a big wash of Olivia Newton-John, which was kind of nice to see that they all responded to it in kind. So that was wonderful. The other thing that I'm on about, it just happened last night as well. We're filming this on a Monday. There was an explosion in Moscow, and the brain man, Alexander Dugin, who is the kind of the philosopher and general mapper of where Russia is going with this whole Sovietizing of Russia again. His daughter was killed in a blast in the car that he was supposed to be in, but at the last minute he decided not to go. It was kind of like the Princess Diana thing where last minute something changed and tragedy ensued. He didn't die, but his daughter did. And she was just as much an ultra-nationalist. So I'm like, okay. But what's interesting, and the reason why I'm on about it, is this morning, several news sources in Europe are reporting that there was a Nationalist Republican Party, a new entity in Russia, which is taking up the rebranding of the flag from the Russian expats who have left the country, where it's a white, blue, white flag. They take the red out. And that has become their symbol, and they're claiming responsibility for the daughter's death. And they've put out a manifesto. I'll fly it here because it's rather interesting to read. but I'm not going to take the time to read it to you, but you can pause it and read what was written. I found it on another channel from a Ukrainian guy who puts up stuff that's intercepted by Russian soldiers. He put up a whole video on it, and I'll put a link down below for it if you want to go see it yourself. But I found it very interesting because the claim pretty much states that there's an internal revolutionary war coming. And this is put up by ex-politicians, ex-military people, and government officials who really don't like where the regime is going and what's happening to Russia. So they're claiming it's kind of their IRA working underground. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays against what's going on in the Ukraine conflict side by side with now Russia having to deal with internal strife. So it's going to be very interesting. So that's what I'm on about for this week. Who won the week for you?
Sandman. Didn't see it coming, but they dropped a surprise episode 11. It's a 2 stories in one. They do not weave into each other. There's a clear break. But they are 2 of the more interesting standalone stories from the comic books. So Dream of a Thousand Cats, and I will preface this by saying that in the comic books, neither of these really has to do with what's going on between the Dreamland and the real world and his imprisonment and that whole storyline. So these were definitely standalones, but really important. So Dream of a Thousand Cats was Neil's way of showing that, 1, he did believe that pets dreamed, which I thought was always very cool from beginning to end. But 2, introduces into the Sandman series the idea that if enough beings dream the same thing at the same time, it rewrites reality to be that thing. And so the Dream of a Thousand Cats is one cat trying to get all cats to dream about being back in control, because apparently they were in prehistory and humans were the slaves. Aha.
I would argue that it hasn't really changed.
If you're a cat owner, that probably hasn't changed. The interesting
Mine's
thing
sitting
about
right here.
yeah, the interesting thing about that part of the story, though, is they animated it to look like moving comic book panels. And Neil himself,
that was gorgeous.
It was stunning. And Neil himself voiced the crow in that series that put the cat on its path, which I thought was also really cool. The other story that was wrapped into this was the story about Calliope, the muse, one of the Greek muses, to whom the Sandman, Morpheus, had been married in prehistory. And when their child Orpheus was killed, they split. Well, now Calliope's been held by 2 writers as their personal muse, and she manages to call out to Morpheus for help. Again, in the comic books, it didn't really have anything to do with the overarching full plot, but it was a really interesting piece of backstory into Morpheus's history, the fact that he had family, and just sort of who, that he interwove with the gods and goddesses and mythology of our world. So, surprise, episode 11 out of nowhere made me super happy. It won my week.
Excellent. I can't disagree because, and I'll show, she's going to get upset because I'm picking her up, but my Taki looks like the big cat that starts out in the beginning of it. And what's really funny is that, sorry, Taki, the small cat that she approaches looks like another cat my mom has who's tiny like that. So we kind of said it was like Taki and Leia. So
nice.
so it had a personal touch for us. But anyways, and now she's eating my pen. Stop it, Taki. Okay, so what am I on? Who won the week for me? I'm going to give an honorable mention first. Was that yours? Total?
Yep.
Okay. My Who Won the Week has an honorable mention, and I showed this to Vance before the show. Actually, I showed him both of them. But the first one is an honorable mention. It is The DeLorean is Back. And I will fly it here so people can see what it looks like. I'll put the link down below for the actual video where they talk about it. But evidently, it was a crowdsourced car relaunch. They made a crap ton of money on the crowdsourcing, and I guess it's because of the sentimental value of Back to the Future. It became a big thing. They had a shitload of money to invest, so now the car is approaching production. It is definitely a luxury vehicle. Don't kid yourself. This is not a consumer product, but it has some really cool things about it. And so if you want to check it out and find out more about it, CNET has this video on it. I'll put it down below. I'll show a little bit of it here. And you can take a look at that and see what it's all about. So that's my honorable mention. Now, in the same vein, my Who Won the Week this week actually is from my hometown here in San Diego. Up in Carlsbad, Leucadia area, there is a car manufacturer that tried 10 years ago. And in fact, Vance kind of remembered the story of a 3-wheel car, electric EV that came out that didn't quite make it. And it couldn't be sold in Wisconsin because of why?
Well, 2 reasons. One, the car dealers association has such a strong, lobbyist, that back then electric vehicles were not allowed. They still can't sell Teslas in Wisconsin legally. We have to go out of state to buy a Tesla. But 2, the 3-wheel vehicle did
Thanks,
not
Ron
test.
Johnson.
It goes back, yeah. But the 3-wheel vehicle also did not test as safe for our winters.
Gotcha. Okay, both of which they're now addressing. The new, and what we're talking about is the car called Aptera. It is based here in San Diego. It is not only an electric car, it is a solar-powered electric car. The panels, and I'll fly the picture here so you guys can see it. It has solar panels, and it is shaped like a porpoise. And that is for 2 reasons. One, it's aerodynamic. It has the least coefficient drag on the vehicle. It is comparable, I think, if I remember right, to a race car that is super sleek that has like the least coefficient drag. So the Aptera is right on par with that. That's how good it is at aerodynamics. Plus the fact that it is a 2-seater coupe, but it's got an enormous boot area in the back that is just huge. I told my husband, I'll get one and I'll put the cat in the back with all her toys and she can run around and play in the back. The vehicle is now produced with a, what do they call it? Not a combined, but a composite material that is so strong, it's stronger than steel. So it has done well in crash tests. It has all the normal bells and whistles with airbags and all that kind of stuff. But the thing is about it, it can get up to 1,000 miles in distance. And you probably won't have to charge it if you use it for just pretty much driving around town or whatever, because if you park it out in the sun, all of the solar panels are along the top from the front through the dashboard up onto the roof and down the back, and it will charge on its own, just sitting out there parked, ready to go. Kind of a cool thing. It also will manage the power better. So like if you don't need power heated seats, you can turn that off and that increases your efficiency. So it's got some really nice customization on the fly that you can do to manage the power. But I kind of say they won my week because, one, they're local to San Diego, and San Diego pretty much doesn't have a whole lot that they can brag about and talk about. But this one seems like a really, really cool thing. There's also going to be a convention September 10th and 11th here in San Diego that is for the electric industry, cars, home stuff, and all kinds of stuff that's going to be here. And I plan on attending, and maybe I can take my camera and do a little video essay so people can see what's available and things that I might find interesting. So maybe I'll grab my bestie Yvonne and have Tuffy go with me. Be kind of fun to have a lesbian along. Hear it, Tough? I'm coming for you, girl. All right. Anyway, so that's who won my week. I just think it's pretty marvelous that we're now seeing some rise up. There's also, I'll do another quick honorable mention, a new company out of Vietnam. Yes, Vietnam. You heard me right. And it's called VinFast. And they used to make combustible engine, and now they've switched totally to electronic, and their vehicle looks impressive as fuck. I mean, it is an impressive looking car, and the way that it handles looks really nice. It's an SUV, but it's kind of not really a compact SUV because it's got 2 models, one that they call the little brother and one that's the bigger one. And the bigger one's more comparable to like a Pathfinder or, so it's that kind of big. But the littler one is along the lines of a RAV, just a hair bigger. And so, but they're really nice. They're really beautiful and very well thought out with the software that's built in. It comes with Android and with CarPlay. And the thing is, it's put out by the Vin Group, which evidently is a huge conglomerate in Vietnam that has their hands in literally everything, house building, all kinds of stuff, and it's on the rise. The richest man in Vietnam is the one who's bankrolling this, and so they can get into the U.S. market, they're building a huge facility that will employ over 7,000 people in North Carolina. So the car will be built locally. So there's that. So
Nice.
That's who won my week.
Cool. Any final words of wisdom?
Stay cool. It's
All right,
summer.
folks,
I'm waiting for autumn. I just want my autumn.
I don't know.
I'm done.
All right, Written on the Edge is produced by Rogue Ravens Media. For disclaimers, links to social media, our listen stations, or to sign up as a guest, please visit www.roguepodcast.com. Also visit that site to take our link to YouTube so that you can, follow us, like us, and then maybe help us get a real YouTube URL that I can give you.
We want to be a real boy.
We want to be a real site. A channel. That's it. We want to be a real channel.
Yeah.
So if you enjoy learning about new artists or seeing the return of artists who've been with us before, please like and subscribe so you get the alerts for new episodes. Tune in next week for your Queer Media Fix.
Bye.
Oh, what's there? Closing time. The bums rush in melody, dear.